entire month we have been teaching about dominion. And I want to make sure that we kind of have all this culmination about how we actually apply the dominion that God has already provided for us. So we've been laying a foundation every week to make sure we are clear about what it means to have dominion. And then we want to have this culmination of how we actually walk in and apply the dominion that we have. We've talked all along about something that we decree is something that's decided and also something that is also binding. Let's repeat together our declaration, please. I declare I am special and extraordinary. I am not average. I have been custom made. I am one of a kind. Of all the things God created, what He is most proud of is me. I am His masterpiece, His most prized possession. I will keep my head held high, knowing I am a child of the Most High God, made in His very image. This is my declaration. If you join me in accepting that declaration, you can give God one more hand clap of praise. So this idea about this declaration really is wonderful to help remind us about the dominion that we have as well. So this entire year, we've been talking about your mindset matters. Our minds have to be set that we're either going to have dominion or we're not. Our minds have to be set, we're going to walk in favor or we're not. Our minds have to be set that we know we are the righteousness of God or we're not. Our minds, just like on a car, when we set that cruise control, our minds would have to be set. Please write down Colossians 3:1 again if you would. Very familiar portion of Scripture. Paul says to the church at Colossae. Now Colossae was a church that was full of a lot of agnostics, or agnostics actually. And they thought that the way to get close to God was more than one knowledge. And they were saying anything, the more degrees they got, the more learning they got, the closer they were to God. And Paul tells them in Colossians 3:1, since you have been raised with Christ, set your minds on things above and not the things below. Since you've been raised by Christ, in other words, keep your minds. Don't get bogged up with all the nonsense down here and regardless of all the nonsense that happens here. Set your minds on things above that we may enjoy and embrace what God has provided for us as well. So life is only as good as your what? If you think you're going to fail, what's going to happen? If you think, and people, we talk things into existence. On a Monday, they will say, oh, I feel something coming on. By Friday, I'm going to be sick. What happens by Friday? It's only as good as our mindset. So a mindset, we're talking about having our mindset so that we can indeed determine and achieve the success and the things that God has provided for us as well. So our whole point, the premise here, is living in dominion, reigning in life. We talk about finding joy in the journey, and we have to make our mind has to be set that we're going to find joy in the journey. Regardless of how things are, regardless of how difficult they are, we have to have our mind set that we're going to find joy in this journey, because blessed is the life that finds joy in this journey. So we're going to take a look at a couple of spiritual principles, and we want to end primarily with spiritual principle number 6 later on. That really talks about how we're able to walk in and exercise this dominion that we have. All this entire month we've been laying this foundation. So let me just tell you, where we're going to end is, here's a situation in front of you. How do we now take the dominion over whatever's going on and use the dominion God has given us? So we've been making this case all month that we walk in dominion. Does anybody embrace the fact that we walk in dominion as God's children? Amen. We walk in dominion. So now it's one thing to know we walk in dominion. It's a whole different thing to exercise and utilize the dominion that we have. So this first part we have here, spiritual principle number 1, as a reminder, this opinion, an opinion. And we talked about this opinion simply an interpretation. Everybody has an opinion. This is an opinion. It's talking about how somebody feels or what someone thinks about. You can't really fault somebody's opinion, but we talked about all month long that a fact can be proven, researched, or also checked. So we are entitled to our own what? Opinion. But not our own facts. Regardless of what, so we're entitled to our own opinion, but not our own facts. So look what happens. So we talked about embracing godly wisdom to inform our what? Opinion about our position of dominion. So we want to go from interpretation, or we want to go from the opinion of what dominion is to fact of what dominion is instead. So that's what I hope. So opinions based on godly wisdom are no longer interpretation, but revelation. Oh, I love that. There's no longer, see, so again, we talked about all month. If we had given you, if everybody had a pattern, we're going to go back in. Sister Amy showed me now how to go on the internet and use this thing called Poll Everywhere. So if I had some PowerPoint up here and I had everybody polling and say, what is dominion? We would probably have as many interpretations of dominion as there are people. But we want to now go from our interpretation and opinion to now revelation and fact. Or another way to put this is, God's opinions based on godly wisdom become facts because they're based on God's word. So this idea, the second point I want to make, read this with me please. Living in the fullness of God, dominion power. How many ready to live in the fullness of God? I mean the fullness, amen, the fullness of God, amen, dominion power. So we talked about very quickly this definition. I want to lay this foundation quickly because I want to build on where we're headed about how we exercise and walk in the dominion that God has promised us biblically in His Word. So dominion means the power to rule. You already have that in your notes. And we talked about power simply being what? Strength, ability, and might. So if dominion is the power to rule, and power is strength, ability, and might, then dominion is simply the strength, the might, and the ability to rule. The strength, the ability, and the might to rule. So now we're talking about, again, living in dominion, reigning in life. Now, I recognize that when we start talking about this whole idea of dominion, because of what we have thought in the past, what we've heard in the past, it is hard to embrace the fact that Jesus died for us to walk and have the ability to have the strength, ability, and might to rule. So as we go forward now, a spiritual principle number 3. This is what I want to make sure you add this to your notes now. Read this with me, please. God gave you dominion. Use it. Amen. Amen. He gave it to us. Yes. It's given to us. It's time for us to use it and walk in it. So I want to talk just for a moment about what stands in the way. Why don't we utilize the dominion that God has already given us? I want to give you three limited T's in just a minute. So some limited things that stand in the way that keep us from really utilizing and walking in the dominion that we are given. Now, just to be clear, remember we talked about the very first time a word is used in the Bible is the most important one. It is the lens through which we see everything else. So every other time dominion is used in the Bible, it's all for the foundation was from Genesis 1:26, when God says that let's make man in our own image, after our own likeness, and let them have dominion over all the birds of the air, over all the creeping things, over all the earth. So everything else is informed by this. One of the things we see from Adam and Eve from the book of Genesis, that would go forward to keep us from utilizing the dominion God has given us would be these three things at minimum. First of all, it's limited trust. If we don't trust that God has given us dominion, we're not going to walk in it. Amen. If we don't believe that God has given us dominion, so let's go right here. So you know from Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, let's read this together. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Keep doing what? And lean not into your own understanding. In some of your ways, all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your path. I love this same one from Message. I want you to, especially for those that have your slides already, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 from Message translation. Let's read this together. Because Message has a way of putting things so clear and so plain, we can't miss it. Let's read this together. Trust God from the bottom of your heart. Now remember, we're talking about limited trust. So we're trusting God from the bottom of your heart. Keep reading. Don't try to figure out everything on your own. Listen to God's voice in everything you do. Who does God speak to? Who was us? All right. And listen to God's voice in everything you do. Keep going. Everywhere you go, He's the one who will keep you on track. Don't assume that you know it all. Run to God. That's just beautiful right there. So what are we saying? So that every time we are making a decision about whatever it is, God stands ready to direct us. God stands ready to prompt us. God stands ready to lead us. And our role is to take a moment to listen to that still small voice that's always going to direct us. There are some times in the natural, it doesn't even make any sense to the things we've done. But sometimes you feel the voice of God impressing you and prompting you and directing you. That's about us recognizing we are trusting and relying on what God has shared with us as well. Now, let's read this together. Don't lean on your own understanding. If your trust in God is limited by your understanding of his ways, you will always have what? If we are trying to understand the ways of God, it says over in the book of Isaiah, his ways are not our ways, his thoughts are not our thoughts. As high as the heaven is above the earth, so far are his thoughts above our thoughts, and his ways above our ways. There is no way the creation is going to be able to understand the mind of the Creator. There is no way. So as long as we're trying to go back and trust God based on a limited view of his ways, we will always have limited trust. What's the definition of trust here? It's simply doing what? The act of placing confidence in someone or something else. So right now, all of you all are proving you have trust right now by sitting down in that pew. You are trusting that pew's going to hold you. Now, all of a sudden, y'all getting concerned now. But you just sat down because you had unconditional trust that you're going to be able to sit in that pew and it was going to sustain you, regardless of how many people are on the road with you. Now, again, we cannot have more trust in a pew than we have in the one we praise. We cannot have more trust in a pew than the one that we honor and glorify as well. So the idea is put in confidence in someone or something else. So here's the point. God's confidence, if we have confidence in God, we have what? What's the Bible? Somebody said we have what? Unlimited. Unlimited possibilities to do what? Self-confidence has limited potential. God's confidence has unlimited potential. Unlimited possibility to do what? Do it. All right, do your thing. That's what I love. This church is always talking biblically. Do your thing. So the idea was, so it is not saying that this God confidence, let me make this, as much as, I got some pictures when I played basketball back in high school, where I was able to go back and cradle the ball. I got a picture with my head right by the rim. I could not get that high again unless I get a ladder. So the idea, so I can try, I'm having confidence in God to have unlimited possibility to do what he put me on earth to do and to fulfill his will. That God will always provide the resources necessary for you to do what God has called you to do. I don't care what it looks like and what it feels like. God called you, God chose you, God created you to do something, and there is unlimited possibilities that we would have in fulfilling what God called us to do. Too many times we get a vision from God and it seems to be too big. And God says, I know this vision is big, but I'm a big God. And I'm going to need you to trust me and rely on me and depend on me to have that vision come to pass as well. Self-confidence is about limited potential. God confidence is about unlimited possibility. Say it with me 3 times. I have confidence in God, complete confidence in God. Again, I have complete confidence in God. One more time. I have complete confidence in God. So this idea, so trust then, is this firm reliance on the integrity, the ability, the character of something else, of someone else. One of the reasons we don't walk in our dominion is by having limited trust. I love this. Please read this with me, please. God will take you through places you don't understand. Anybody been on a journey you don't understand where you're going? Amen. Keep going. Just to bring you to the place where he needs you to be. That's why you got to trust him. That's why you got to find join the journey. That's why you have to have an opportunity to go in, and even if I don't understand how and why I'm at this point, I trust God enough. I believe in God enough. I know God loves me. I know God is going to turn his back on me because he's going to even use this to get where I need to go.